So it's been over a week, just over a week since you attended the Rethink Reset Results workshop. And some of you might be wondering, because you had so much on your plate at the time, what was that about? What did we learn? Is there something I'm supposed to be practicing right now? Well, it's Roshini again. Thank you so much for watching this video clip, which I hope is going to be a way for us to extend some of that learning that we started during that Rethink Reset Results workshop. I've just come out of this interesting webinar, which was done by the people that have brought out this research on the transformational leader. If you haven't heard of them, they're Jeremy Blaine and Paul Marks. Do look out for them. But their webinar, which was called The Great Leadership Rethink, kind of supports everything that we were talking about during our workshop together. But from their 3,000 over interviews across 4 regions and, including 29 countries, out of the top 6 leadership fears that's out there right now, it seems to be that it's around mental and physical health challenges, increased anxiety and stress levels, and burnout at leadership and line management level. The way to turn around some of this, basically from the research again, is that what people want are mental and physical well-being coaching as well as advice. I did ask the question during the webinar, what is it that leaders can do to keep whole? I mean, yes, we are having to be transformational. We have to be adaptable. Yes, we've got this VUCA world. But they added a D to the VUCA, as in, it's distributed. We're having to deal with that as well. So what is that one thing that they would advise and, to leaders? As Paul Marks shared with me, he said that if we can have leaders step back, take a good look at themselves, be really honest, make a choice, commit, and start practicing habits, build that resilience in them. That's basically what it takes. But it does take time, it does take effort, and it is about making those daily routines. And I love the idea of creating habits, because the thing about habits is that it creates headspace, right? You want things to be automatic and natural, and that where you're not thinking about it, like brushing your teeth as soon as you wake up or tying your shoelaces. You need that headspace to do the other good stuff, thinking stuff. So when you make it a habit, it's almost like on autopilot. So we did share a lot of things with you, but over the next 3 weeks, what I'm going to do is just pick a few things that I feel would be really useful for you to think about. And if you remember, one of the first things that we talked about was living above the line, right? If we don't choose to live above the line, then we are going into, modes that are less, less resourceful for us, but less even in terms of the outcomes and the results that we want. So how do we improve our response ability? How do we make sure that we're constantly living above the line, even if the default, or even if we sometimes fall to below the line? And, we talked about the checking in. So why do we need to check in? The checking in practice is basically really making sure that we are putting our fingers on the pulse of that stress that so many of us feel, right? And as we all know, stress is sometimes good. It sometimes makes us, a lot more alert. It makes us a lot more ready. It basically motivates you to be more ready and to prepare better for events or decisions. So some stress is really good. And if you remember, we showed you a video about how you can and should make stress your friend. But yet at the same time, if we don't handle stress well, especially when you add to that issues that are happening at work and at home that's also unresolved, that can create an overreaction in the way we are responding to people, situations, events, and that can really affect our decision making as well. So we need to learn how to hit the pause button. So the one thing I want you to remember is that checking in practice of being able to pause when you notice that things are getting a bit out of hand. So this means getting really in touch with how you are feeling. Now, the problem is that we are so busy with so many things, so how do we make sure we do this? So here's what I suggest. One is to give yourself a time. It could be twice a day, it could be once a day, maybe at 12:34 or 5:43 before you go back to your homes and your children. But have an alarm on to do a little bit of a check-in, to give yourself that pause. And if you can sit down and just sink into your emotions and just see, where are you at? Are you towards the more positive? Are you towards the more negative? Where are you? Now, if you can name the emotion, then you can tame the emotion. But even if you don't know whether there's a name for it, you do know whether it's positive or negative. And here's the thing, if you're positive, that's great. But if you're on the negative side, remember, even if it is mildly negative, we all know how emotions can get more or less intense. So what we want to do is make sure that we're checking in so that the intensity doesn't creep up on us and then get us into a state where we are reacting rather than responding. Now, if you find that you're more in the negative space, then ask yourself these questions. Where is this coming from? Is it coming from a situation, a comment that was made by someone? Was it something someone did? So then ask yourself this question now. Is this something I can deal with right now by just making a call or sending out an email? Or can I just put it down on my to-do list so that I can give it some attention later? Now, it is possible that no amount of thinking about it is going to resolve the issue. And maybe it is time to let go of this particular trigger. Now, some of you might be wondering, how can I use this with my teams? So I want to show you a scale that was used by an organization that they had in their meeting rooms. And every member of the team had a magnet with their name on it. And people would come into the room, and just before they start their meeting, people would put their magnets, on the scale. And most people would be kind of around 7 and below. Occasionally, you would get someone with a higher number. So what would you do? You would just check in with the person and say, "Hey, what's going on? Why are numbers so high?" The person would just say it out. And the next question is, "So what do you need to do about it?" And sometimes it would be, "Well, I need to have a conversation with you. Can we arrange for a call? Or I just need to get onto, a phone call and make sure that I have set up this appointment." It could be something so simple, but just being able to check it in, being able to just say it out, that already, creates a decrease in the emotional state of the person, which then helps them not only stay resourceful, but focus on the meeting at hand. Now, there are various other ways that you can do checking in a meeting context. And if you want to know more, feel free to reach out to me. So here is my challenge to you. Out of the 3 things I have here, pick one of these things and try it out just for this week. My challenge also is to notice what happens as you practice this. And we would love to hear from you. You can send me an email, you can send Meenakshi an email, or you can connect with us on LinkedIn and send us an email and tell us about your results. The 3 things that I have here: practice checking in at least once a day at 12:34. Maybe set aside 20 minutes every day doing reflection time. Now, the reflection time could be a reflection on that issue that was a trigger before that you need resolving. So you could also use it as a time for thinking around problems and issues. That could be a useful way. There is a saying that when you reflect, you can actually direct, right? It is in reflection we can shift direction. And of course, ask your team to check in as a meeting starts. You could use the concept of having a table or a scale like what I showed you earlier, Or you can just ask them, hey, is there anyone with anything on their mind right now that you just need to say it out and get it off your chest so that we can stay focused on this meeting? You can choose to do things like that too. I'm really looking forward to hearing as to what some of those results could be.